Thank you so much for joining us here this evening for Green Wave. This is a live stream, at least on several platforms, where we will meet 4 Green Party candidates who are in the midst of their respective 2023 campaigns. This webinar's objective is to showcase these candidates and to inspire other Green Party candidates to run, to represent the party's 10 key values and 4 pillars on the campaign trail and ultimately in elected office. Green Wave is sponsored by the Coordinated Campaign Committee of the Green Party of the United States, whose job it is to partner with state parties to encourage, support, and help promote Green Party candidates such as these. My name is Scott Logenauer. I'm the current co-chair of the Coordinated Campaign Committee. I'll be assisted today by fellow CCC member Holly Hart from Iowa, who'll be monitoring the chats and doing the Zoom technicals for us. And I'm also assisted by Sherry Wells from Michigan, who will monitor the Q&A sessions that we have. The 4 candidates and campaigns that we will present tonight are Gloria Caballero Roca, who's running for school committee in Holyoke, Massachusetts. Artis Burney, who is running for Mississippi State Senate in District 51. And finally, a tag team of 2 candidates, Margaret Elizabeth and Ryan Armstrong, who are both running for Seattle City Council in Districts 2 and 3, respectively. We'll conclude easily by 10:30 p.m. Before launching the interviews, I'll note that audience members should remain muted throughout the webinar. And please use the chat feature to submit questions to any of the candidates and ensure that you're identified when you submit those questions. Finally, the Coordinated Campaign Committee of the Green Party of the United States, we rely on financial contributions from individuals who wish to see the party grow stronger. There's a donation link of the party's website, gp.org, and we thank you very much for your support. We'll begin now with Dr. Gloria Caballero Roca. Because it's already getting late on the East Coast, we will follow Gloria's interview with a Q&A session. And then Q&As for the other candidates who are in earlier time zones will be at the conclusion or towards the end of the webinar. With an upbringing in Cuba and 2 PhDs from the US and Spain, Dr. Caballero Roca brings an inspiring vision of public education with a mission to develop sophisticated critical thinkers. Her publications focus on the intersectionality of diaspora, anti-imperialism, social justice, and experience. Welcome and good evening, Gloria. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you so much for inviting me. Good evening, everyone.
It's really good to see you. It's really good to see you. Do you want to say a few more words by way of introduction to yourself?
Oh my goodness. Well, it's hard to, sort of say a few words. I'm honored. I'm so glad that I'm running with the Green Party. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share a little bit of my story. This is a space where I have found that independent voters and thinkers have room to voice their opinions against war, for the planet, and for the people. Thank you so much. I'm running for school committee in my ward number 4 here in Holyoke, and under invested community in terms of everything, infrastructure, education, et cetera, et cetera. But I guess we can talk more about it. Thank you so much for being here.
Of course, yes. I look forward to that. And why are you running as a Green?
Well, I was always a Democrat, but then time has shown me that when the state and corporations get together, when they go to bed together, what you have is fascist state. Democrats have waged so many wars. They have backed coup d'etats in Latin America, in Central America, and around the world. They are spending billions and billions of dollars in a war that is a proxy war instead of investing in us, in our children, in our infrastructure, in the education, safety, spaces for everybody in the acknowledgement of our sacred humanity, protecting the the Earth, planet Earth. So I decided to run for this position. I ran for mayor of Holyoke, for auditor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and now as a member of the school committee here in my city, because it's the only space where I can find that really represents my values, the values in which I believe in grassroots democracy, in putting people before profit, and applying for peace. Fighting for peace and justice and social justice all over the world. It is sad to see that some members of the Green Party in Germany have co-opted, our values, and they have declared war. But this is not what this party is about. This is about the Earth. This is about the planet. It is about motivating people who don't know, who want to see a better world with respect for all of us. And it doesn't matter what you look like and where you come from, if you're green or yellow or red or blue. This is about human beings. There's only one planet. We want peace. And this is what these parties represent: peace,
Right.
and justice, and respect.
Wonderful. And so back to Holyoke and the school committee election, what issues are you focused on, and in of how they would help your community?
Sure. So I've been in this, I've been a teacher since I was 23 years old. I'm 57, so go figure. And I've taught college and high school, private and public institutions here in the United States, in Cuba, and Spain, and Poland. And I have noticed my community, which is one of the first, if not the first one, planned industrial or mill city established in the United States, being more and more underfunded when it comes to education, to schools, to after-school programs, to schools programs that are for the arts and sports. So I decided to really explore this opportunity to engage more with my community, with the teachers, talk to them, want to get closer to them. What are the expectations? What are the tensions? Where is the city not investing? I want to get closer to the families and the students. Here in Holyoke, we have a very, very deep housing crisis. We also have problem with the water, drinkable water. We have problem with unemployment. And all this in a city that has been disenfranchised over the years, a city that has wonderful potential to become one of the pioneer places in Massachusetts to really affect change when it comes to culture, when it comes to different ways of analyzing and living politics and getting involved. However, we see more and more that this city has been under receivership for the past 8 years. I haven't heard any plan to get us out of receivership. I haven't heard anything when it comes to the intersectionality of analyzing the underperformance of our children. Why don't we talk that housing crisis is a problem if you want to have students that really perform well? I understand that people who have served their times in prison, they want to re-engage in their communities and contribute to the communities. That is a problem in my city of Holyoke. These people are human beings, they have children, and that affects their upbringing and places where they need to really grow. We also have a problem with landlords that are slum landlords. 88% of the properties that are rented in Holyoke belong to corporations. It's hard to point at the owners of those places. So as you can see, education is not a tier that it's an independent thing to analyze. It has to be accompanied by a multi-layered positioning when it comes to housing, when it comes to programs that are after school program, when it comes to really spaces that are safe for the children, when it comes to people wanting to find better opportunities. We should stop, in my community, criminalizing poverty. We, after the pandemic, we were very hit. We were hit hard after the pandemic and during the pandemic. So teaching and learning on Zoom was really difficult, especially for students who need more support with special education. I haven't seen any transitioning that really tackles the mental health issues that have arisen in my city. I want to engage in that conversation. I want to affect changes in policy making that really represent the multicultural city that we are. We are multilingual, we are multi-expressive, and we really need to understand what the students are doing. They really need to understand what the teachers are doing. We are a city that struggled with MCAS results, and these are standardized tests that do not test critical thinking, critical reading. This is just answer questions, yes or no questions, but they don't address real education that has to be hands-on, that has to be creative, that in which the students also bring their knowledge and their culture into the table. That is also part of growing and learning in my community. I want to really make sure that this community of Holyoke, at least in my ward, feels that someone out there, which is me, who's me, cares. And for me, a good education matters. That's why I'm running with the Green, because I know they support these values. And that is why I am running, because I can affect positive changes in my city.
So, and tell us a little bit about your race, Gloria. How competitive is it? The election's going to be in November, am I right?
Yes.
And you are already on the ballot. You collected your signature. You're there. You know what your competition is.
Yes, I am already on the ballot, and I should say that September is going to be the primary, because I don't know if the current person is running. That person hasn't pulled the papers yet, pulled out the nomination or the candidacy papers yet. But there's another person who already pulled the papers. That person is not on the ballot yet. I know that whatever the result, it has to be for the good of Holyoke. And competition is not a matter of, who is going to win or not. It's a matter of who's going to bring to the table, and talk about the issues that really matter to our students. Do they understand the curriculum or the curricula in Pluto? Do they know that it's important that reading steps begin right from kindergarten? We have a very low percentage of proficiency reading in 3rd and 4th grade in my city. I want to make sure that we collaborate and we reach out to organizations who've done research about how to support our students succeed when it comes to reading and also in math. Not only that, I think that the arts and sports and critical thinking and reading and connecting with other people that have really done a lot of work around these issues would help, our students and families succeed when it comes to education. Something that could be very rigid, but also something that could be creative and in which students and families can democratically participate in the kind of education their students would really want to get.
So tell us now, how has your campaign gone so far? The good and the bad. And obviously, we want to inspire people to follow in your footsteps and run. Tell us also what you're looking forward to in the campaign, and maybe how you communicate with voters. In a small town, it's pretty easy, I suppose. Tell us a little bit about how your campaign's been going and what you're looking forward to.
Well, campaign is going really well. People have been very respectful and supportive. Imagine I got all the signatures in. I wanted to have 180. I only needed 50 signatures, but then I got 125 signatures, and I was classified and certified. People want to see a different face. People want to hear about someone who cares about people's community. I mean, the community issues that really are affecting us. It's been a very interesting journey. This is not the first time that I ran. The first time I ran was 2 years ago for mayor of Holyoke. And why did I do it? It was in the middle of a pandemic and things were getting very stressful. For me, I lost my job at UMass Amherst. They closed everything. Everything had to be refigured and configured. And I said, okay, I'm going to run because I know that things can be different. And I have something to say, and I have things to contribute. And I know how to do politics because I am Cuban. I came with that. I know how I can, few resources and make the best of it. We have so much here and we throw away so much. So I decided to run and the things that I was proposing was, well, let us invest more in small businesses. Let us invest more in education, infrastructure, a city that could be walkable and bikeable, resilient and sustainable. In any case, anytime.
So you're probably also a very good model for those candidates who might be running for the first time.
Yes.
Or for those potential candidates who are thinking about running. You're a good model because it does get easier, doesn't it? It does get.
Yes, it gets easier. Yes, I used to get nervous, whenever there was a public forum or an interview. Oh my God, my heart would pound and I would feel agitated, think, oh my God, what are they going to ask me? Am I prepared for this? I've done my homework, but you never know what people are going to ask. But the more and more I did my homework, the more I exposed myself to this challenge, the more I understood that you just have to be you, be yourself, and be honest. People see through us. If we don't have the answer to a question, we can, because we're human beings, we can say, I don't have the answer right now, but I want to make sure that I get back to you. But you really have to get back to that person, you see? And then make a call.
That's a wonderful segue to the question and answer that we're going to subject to in a few
minutes. Yes.
Thank you so much, Gloria. And I'm now going to quickly introduce our Q&A moderator. We are in recognition of the late time on the East Coast. We're going to field questions for Gloria in a few moments after I introduce our moderator. And we'll ask Gloria to stay on with us as long as possible into the evening. If there's any questions for Gloria at this juncture, please send them into the chat now if you haven't already done so. And in a moment, I'm going to turn it over to Sherry Wells to moderate the Q&A. 10 years ago, Sherry Wells accepted a no-pressure invitation to simply check out the Green Party's 10 key values. And the 10 key values sold themselves to her. She said, they are what I've been working on for all these years. She won a local election before joining and ran for state and statewide office 5 times as a Green, most recently last year. She has held 4 offices in the Michigan Green Party and is currently its election coordinator. So I now hand the speaker, or the moderatorship, over to Sherry Wells to field any questions that might have come in already for Gloria. Sherry?
This is interesting, Gloria, because Amy and I were typing the same thought at the same time. Do you have charter schools or privatization of schools as an issue in Holyoke also?
Yeah. We only have one charter school in Holyoke. And yes, it's a competition. It put a strain in public schools. Charter schools are funded privately and also with state money, the city money. So they have very good infrastructure, beautiful school. All the technology is available to the students because I have visited that charter school. It's an amazing space and place for children to grow and learn. However, our public schools are, for instance, lacking air conditioning, something as basic as that. Some students have complained that sometimes the books that they're given have torn pages. Running water in those schools is not safe to drink, so therefore they have to hire out companies to provide water with filters, etc. We don't have many schools. We don't have any private school in Holyoke, but we do have problems with our public schools. Yes, we need more investment in those public schools. We're going to get one new school. One is going to be torn down, and they're going to build a new school, which is going to be putting a little bit of strain in other public schools because those students are going to be distributed to 1 or 2 more schools. So my son works in one of those schools, and he will be getting 2 more grades in a place that only, could house, house so many students. So
Amy was asking if their community, how your community feels about that charter school. And is the charter school taking the cream of students and of course not taking any special ed students, correct?
well, the charter school, imagine everybody wants to send their children there, and they have a system of lottery. People have to just send their children's name, and if they're picked, then there's an interview, there's a tour of the place, and I think there's also stuff like a test. And if the child or children are approved to go there, then they go. Otherwise, if they are not, you can submit your children's names, but if they're not chosen, then you cannot.
And what do you tell these parents who are feeling like my child and I are not good enough for this private school and you're representing the public schools?
Well, imagine what I would tell them is that private school and public schools, the difference is what is it that the teachers and all the staff are doing to really help your child succeed? Is there an outreach, community inside the school or office that is communicating with the parents? Um, Private school, in this case, a charter school, has a very good infrastructure in terms of outreaching and providing a lot of resources to those families. What I would tell my families that are not able to go to those schools, to that private charter school, is that we in Holyoke need to invest more in what the community wants. We need to invest in the school that is just around the corner and that belongs to the community where my child goes, lives, and with the children that he plays every day. Why not invest in beautifying your school? Why not invest in removing all the, the plight and sometimes things that really affect the children's health? Why not involve all the elected officials in that effort so that my child that lives around the corner from that public school feels pride, is proud of going there? Why not write a curriculum that represents the culture of my city? We in Holyoke are 38,000 people, but then I dare say that 51, 52%, we are Hispanic, and that is important to know. Why not design a curriculum that really represents a community that is multicultural? You could be in a public or private school, but then if we are lacking that representation, and if the other school has it, the private one, then we need to fight, the system. We need to get together. We need to rally around that human right that we have to go to a school that represents our communities, the school that really speaks about, love and caring, a multilingual school that really supports our students and families. It's not a case of just having a private school. Why not you, mother or father, come with me to city council meetings? Why can't you join me in attending those meetings of the school committee so that we as a community talk in consonant and in concert about what really matters to us, which is a safer school, a beautiful school, better curriculum, better infrastructure, topics that really matter in our children's lives, how to manage your little money, how to write a check, how to be an artist, etc.
Speaking of writing a check, as a candidate before, and this is not your first rodeo, as the saying goes. Another question is your fundraising advice, since you've been a candidate, 3 times now? Fundraising advice from the experienced candidate.
Well, imagine. I've done fundraising, cooking Cuban food. People love Cuban food, and I've done it in my backyard. And people have been so generous. They see a person that is running and that's opening their house, to the entire community. And they come in and we talk, and I don't mind cooking, and I love that. Another way of fundraising is like just present your ideas to your community TV station. Talk to your community TV station and say, here's a candidate that lives in this place and that really cares about this and this issue. Please support my campaign and let us talk. Reach me at my email, or we can talk on chat through WhatsApp. I really care. So the more people see that you care and hear your story, the more willing they are to really support you. Another way of fundraising, I did an activity in a park, and we went to a $1 store. We bought a lot of arts and supply, and that was another fundraising. If you want to paint one of the canvases, please donate so much, you know. And we provided all the everything that people needed. There was food, there were a lot of games out there. And if it's an open space where people can bring their children, and that is something that I really support a lot, doing family activities, people get to be very, very generous, because it's something that doesn't happen regularly, and it shows that you really care about their family.
Those are new ideas. I have not heard of those before. Thank you.
Well, this is
Thank-
culture. You know, I was able to do this Holyoke, and we're family oriented. We are Hispanic and Latino. We would like to eat and drink and play outside. So what I'm trying to say is that it is culture that really moves, you know, the way that we present ourselves. And it's also culture, what is going to embrace your politics and the way you really talk to people.
Great. I want to thank you very much, Gloria and Sherry, for that last session. Gloria, we hope you remain with us for most of the rest of the evening, and it's time to move on to our next candidate. The next candidate to be interviewed will be Artis Bernie. And please remember to place questions for Artis in the chat. Sherry will come back to moderate question and answers following all three remaining candidates towards the end of the program. Artis is a poet, an herbalist, and an activist for local control of food, water, and power in coastal Mississippi. His local chapter of the Green Party is a strong coalition of former Democrats, Republicans, and independents who are committed to wresting political power from the corporate duopoly, and they're currently challenging Southern Company and its subsidiary, Southern Power. Hello, Artis, welcome.
Hey, how y'all doing?
I'm very good, thanks for joining us tonight. Is there anything more you'd like to add in the way of self-introduction?
Oh, I think you summed it up.
Okay, good. Well, tell us why you are running as a Green and how you came to run for state senator. And your local chapter is a very interesting story. I'm sure everybody wants to hear a little bit about that.
Okay, well, hey y'all, my name is Artis Bernie. I'm in South Mississippi, Van Cleve, Mississippi, Jackson County, District 51. The reason why I'm running as a Green Party candidate is because over the past several years, as I become more and more of an herbalist, and I found out how these big energy companies affect the environment. I fall in love more and more with the planet. And I feel like the planet needs us. So I'm a Green Party candidate because I put land stewardship and loving on the planet first. I feel like that's where the community, where we live. That's where it all begins, is on the land we live on. And my local chapter, we don't necessarily have a local chapter of the Green Party. We have a state chapter, but my local group is made up of former Democrats, former Republicans, former independents who were not satisfied over the past 20 years or so with our party affiliation. And we know that the Green Party is about putting the planet first and putting the community first. And so that's why I chose to run as a Green Party candidate.
Artis, your head is a little bit chopped off on the video. There we go. That's a little bit better. Okay. We want to see you. How was it that you or your group decided to run for a state senate in particular?
Well, I represent a group of people. It's not just me. I'm just the voice and the face, but we I belong to a group of people who, you know, we sit back and we look at what goes on in our community, like Southern Company, for example, has managed to put 5 times the amount of lithium in the air and the drinking water and in the ground in Jackson County, where I live. And we noticed that through my work with certain nonprofits, Arm and On for Climate.org and Mississippi for Green New Deal, we noticed that a lot of the information wasn't making it to the community. There were situations about environmental hazards and certain things that energy companies and other people would do into the community, and the community, they weren't informed. Things that the community should be up in arms about, they didn't even know about it. So we figured we would connect the dots between the community and the information to have a better informed constituency. And that's why I'm running, is because we want to allow the community, to an informed community, a voice to speak through me. You know, someone that's in the community that puts the planet first and is going to listen to them.
And what, so we, in addition to power, what other specific issues is your campaign focused on in bringing to the community solutions?
One is land stewardship, and also water equity, food sovereignty. The water and the land kind of go hand in hand, because we're surrounded by water here in where I live. We have the Gulf out front, and in the Gulf we get poisoned with oil and then oil dispersants, and just all kinds of hazards in the Gulf, with storms bringing in bad things. And then we get the rivers that run off of the Mississippi River, like the Pascagoula and all the creeks that run here. We have issues with fresh water coming in from climate change issues in the north, bringing in fresh water and disturbing the balance in the Gulf between the fresh water and the salt water. And also, we live in what's considered a food desert here in South Mississippi, and we can grow anything here. And so we want to connect the dots between people's dinner tables and the land they live on, and the land that's surrounding them that's not being used, and put a dent in that, you know, and help folks who live in this food desert.
So you refer to it as a food desert. It's a potentially agricultural area, but for some reason food isn't being grown there.
Right. I mean, this is again, this is South Mississippi. We can grow. Historically, we have grown everything here, everything, and people are just so disconnected. You know, in a situation like this, in a place like South Mississippi, where if you look at your statistics, Mississippi is dead last in all things that are positive, and first in most things that are negative. And it's because we are so busy, distracted. We don't realize necessarily the resources that we have around us, because we stay on this perpetual hamster wheel trying to catch up. And what we want to do is give folks some solutions on how to relax on this hamster wheel and do better.
What are some of the things you're doing to confront Southern Company?
Oh, wow. Thanks for asking that. Well, first of all, we organized, when I say we, my group and I and some of the nonprofits that I've been working with over the years, Arm and On for Climate.org, once again, Lindsay Harper and I, we organized a campaign, a protest campaign within the 5 southern counties here in South Mississippi. And we promoted the campaign for about 2 months. And in December, we hit the road and we hit all 5 counties. We broadcasted live on the internet, and we also documented it on my internet show. It's called Cosmic Poetry Radio. And we went informed the people. We went out and we made noise. We got media attention. We passed the literature. We gave out some mutual aid and helped people pay their power bills. Also, we a couple of weeks ago, we were at the Southern Company shareholders meeting, and we were able to get some microphone time to the surprise of the CEO and the rest of the shareholders, and that was broadcast live over the internet. And so our thing is to get the information to the people in every way we can.
Wonderful. And how competitive is the election's going to be November 7th for you? How competitive is it? Who else is running?
We have a libertarian candidate. And the sister's name escapes me right now. But our incumbent is a Republican. His name is Jeremy England. And we live in a Republican supermajority here in South Mississippi. A lot of people here in South Mississippi vote Republican just because their grandparents and their parents and stuff, so they do now. And so that's the biggest opponent right now is dealing with the Republican supermajority, not just my opponent, but the entire system as a whole. And so I feel like what's been most successful so far with chipping away at that stranglehold is slow motion, face-to-face grassroots organizing, going to churches, going to directly to people, crowds of people, and engaging people face-to-face.
Good. And so how has the campaign gone so far? How long have you been actively running? How has it been? And what are you looking forward to in the coming weeks and months?
What I'm looking forward to in the coming weeks and months is some of these video promotions that we've been working on here at my business at Cosmic Poetry Radio. And it's been going surprisingly well. Like I said, I've been here in the community for a long time. I was a radio announcer for 20 years in this market, a television host for 20 years in this market. So people are familiar with my face and my personality. And so now it's just been about getting out to the people and going and seeing them face to face and connecting the dots between my face and the information.
And what's the what advice do you have for people who are considering running, or this is the second time you've run for an office, so you're not the first rodeo. What advice do you have for candidates who are running for the first time, or for candidates who are thinking about running as Green Party candidates?
Make sure that you have a good support system. Make sure that you have people around you that have good intentions. People around you that want to see what's best for the community, and don't get frustrated when things seem to move slow, because this is we have to be very deliberate in our steps because we want to do what's best for the community. So that means that we have to connect directly with the community. So don't be afraid to go a little bit slow.
Great. Any final words, artists? No final. Well, I'll say this. Just about water. We live in water bodies on a water planet, so water should be on our minds. Okay, so we'll leave it at that. Okay, good. I've seen quite a few questions coming in on the chat, so you will stick around for the Q&A session following our next couple of candidates, and I know there's going to be some questions coming your way, artists. Thank you so much for this more formal part of the program today. And now we're going to move on. We're going to move on to the West Coast in the Pacific time, where there are two candidates running for Seattle City Council in two separate districts. When elected, they will both be the first openly queer, non-binary members of the Seattle City Council. Candidate Margaret Elizabeth, running in District 2, has 25 years of ecological and social justice activism behind them. It brought them to the Green Party, where they've served local and state bodies, the Lavender Caucus, and the National Committee and Steering Committee of the Green Party of the United States since 2016. Citywide universal health care, establishing a living wage, and fighting gentrification are several of many issues that Margaret's campaign is focused on. The other candidate, Rye Armstrong, is running in District 3. an advocate for sustainable development, shelter, and safety. Armstrong is active with Extinction Rebellion, the Union of Concerned Scientists, and is a performing artist. Rye, at this very, very moment, is attending a live event in Seattle where all fellow candidates competing for District 3, which is the seat that is being vacated by Kshama Sawant not running for re-election. It's that district. So there's, I think, 8 other candidates vying for that. So Rye isn't able to join us in person this evening, but we have a video and we have a representative of Rye's campaign, Lisa Kunar, who is the sustainability liaison for the campaign. But first, before we get to the video where you will all get to see Rye introduce Lisa, first I want to hand it over to Margaret and just for any additional introductory information you'd like to give and so people can see your face. Hi, Margaret. Thank you for joining us tonight.
Thank you very much, Scott. Thank you for hosting this event again. I really appreciate the CCC's efforts to bring candidates to the public and the public to the candidates so we get a chance to be heard and to engage with fellow Greens around the country and anyone else who might be tuning into these sort of things. I think you did a good introduction of who I am and what I've been about. Like what I'm running on is, I guess, has some legacy connection to my past, my ecological past, and that sort of thing like that. But a lot of the issues we face here in Seattle are really unique to us and kind of specific. So I think perhaps rather than elaborating on more of my personal background, I'll be happy with that introduction and we can move on to the next bit.
Good, we'll go with that. And Holly, on the technical side, I think we're ready to run the video that will introduce everybody to Rye, and then Rye will introduce Lisa to us. Are we ready, Holly?
No audio. There's no audio at the moment.
Yeah, I don't have audio here. We had it when we tested it earlier.
No, just hang on.
Okay.
Hello to the Green Party. My name is Rye Armstrong, and I am running to be the first non-binary council member on the Seattle City Council. My goal is to represent our historic arts district, the diverse LGBTQ+ community, and all of the constituents in District 3. Our campaign is building momentum to keep Seattle as progressive as we can, with a focus on shelter, safety, and sustainability. Together, we will establish a universal right to shelter, pass robust renter protections and rent control, work to reform our strained policing system in partnership with the BIPOC community, and build specific alternatives to those more traditional response models. Finally, we will create America's first carbon-free city by 2030. I believe that we get more done for the city and its residents when we put aside divisive rhetoric and work together toward a common goal. Inspired by the work of Senator Sanders, I identify as a pragmatic, democratic socialist, and I believe I'm the most progressive candidate running for this seat. Furthermore, as a lifetime Sierra Club member and activist with Extinction Rebellion, Seattle will never see a stronger advocate for protecting our environment and battling the impacts of climate change. Our campaign is proudly endorsed by the King County Young Democrats, the Seattle Green Party, and the Green Party of Washington. I'm honored that our race has the backing of these groups and so many others, just like you. As a third-generation union worker and a member of 2 locals, I am deeply committed to go beyond business as usual and fight as a warrior for the labor movement and the working people of Seattle. We can do more to lift up wages and worker protections while also focusing on economic recovery. These are the values I will bring to the council when elected. It would be a great privilege to earn your vote, support, and donations throughout our people-oriented campaign to create actionable change in our community. You know, my opponents have outraised me by about $25,000 to $40,000. And to have a chance in this race, we need to fundraise like no other. The upcoming primary The mail-in ballots are sent out July 11th. So we have just about a month to raise about $50,000. If you'd like to join our movement, please do so at voteforrye.com. Anyone can give up to $300 per an individual. And finally, it's with great honor that I pass the mic over to our sustainability liaison and the chair of the Seattle Green Party, Lisa Kanar. Take it away, Lisa.
Okay, great. Great. So yeah, take it away. Take it away, Lisa.
Take it away.
Anything further? We're going to do the interview with you representing Rye's campaign and Margaret Elizabeth. You're going to be a tag team. We won't do it separately. We'll do it together. So we'll just sort of combine the time. But before we get into that, Lisa, is there anything else you'd like to say, even about yourself and about your involvement with Rye's campaign? And then we'll get to the formal part.
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, I'm happy to be here representing Rye. I've had a couple of really fun interactions with the campaign, one of which was on the photo shoot day, where we roamed around in the neighborhood and took some very professional photos of Rye and a few of us chatting with him, learning about their platform. And it was lots of fun because we went from businesses in the local community that support the campaign or that agreed to host the photo shoot to outdoor settings. And so I enjoyed that. The other really fun thing was actually collecting democracy vouchers in the park. We went out to Cal Anderson Park, which is right central in the district, and just approached people who live there in the area, asking if we could collect their signatures to fund the campaign. Because here in Seattle, we have public funding of our campaigns. That's called democracy vouchers. And everyone who is a resident of Seattle is given 4 of these vouchers to spend on candidates who are running for office. Each voucher is worth $25. So we could collect signatures from local residents that allow that money to be given to the campaign. So that was a really fun time too. And we posted some pictures on social media. So I'll let
I think people will be very interested in learning about the democracy vouchers system that exists out in Seattle. So that might come up while we're talking. So Margaret, Lisa as Rye, why Green Party? Why run as a Green Party candidate with the Green Party endorsement?
Well, I mean, there's a couple of reasons, of course. Number one, I'm a Green Party member. So that makes it like, one of those like almost de facto things. Even if I wasn't a Green Party member, though, if I was an independent and I was seeking party nominations, the Green Party is the only one I would seek. Look, we have to be honest about what's going on with the climate, and it's pretty clear the Democrats don't have climate justice as any part of their platform whatsoever. I could obviously never be part of the Republicans because, I mean, look at them. And I could not be a libertarian because I don't agree with most of their social and economic policies. So the only political home I would have is in the Green Party. Aside from that, I think that the Green Party also represents something really revolutionary and progressive in United States politics, an actual, for real electoral anti-war party. And is whether we like it or not, we are at the brink of, perhaps even in the middle of a new Cold War with actual hot wars all around the world. And the more these things go on, the more climate crisis continues to put pressure on vulnerable populations, the more we're going to be facing choices about war and financing that and all the rest of it. We need to have a real honest conversations with ourselves about it, and attack the source of this stuff, banks which fund it, and the oil companies which support these politicians, which support the banks which fund the war and which fund the oil companies. It's a vicious circle. We have to break that chain somewhere.
Lisa, anything to add on that?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Well, Rye has the ambitious goal of making Seattle carbon neutral by 2030. So really pushing forward the Green New Deal. as a major hub of the platform, locally applying that. And the kind of three big platform pieces are shelter, universal shelter, and rent control, safety, public safety, and oversight of the police with new independent community programs to assist and provide healthcare and social services for residents. And then the sustainability platform, of course, and really putting forward the Green New Deal and renewable transit as part of that, of course.
Is there anything, any specifics on any of the issues that either Rye or Margaret is running on that you'd like to give more details on, like some of the sustainability plank, for example, Lisa, or some of the neighborhood issues, Margaret, that people in your district are facing? And either of you can go first on that.
Well, one thing we might talk about is the social housing movement here, which recently passed in Seattle. So funding that is a big priority of Rye's campaign, and I know Margaret's too, to see that funding come through to build that housing that the people of Seattle have voted that we need. So this is like mixed use housing that's not only rent control, but actually renter overseen, where renters are on the board, have the majority on the board that oversees the housing developments. It's all publicly funded and nonprofit and permanently affordable to residents. So that's a nice local program that we want to push forward and build on and grow. And yeah, I'll let Margaret talk more about that too. That's a really good highlight of what we're doing here in Seattle.
Great, Margaret.
Oh yeah, thank you, Scott. Thank you, Lisa. So there's obviously a lot of challenges that all cities right now are facing sort of collectively. I think we could look around and easily see that most big cities in the United States are dealing with an unhomed population that is lacking in medical care, lacking in any sort of economic opportunity. And we're dealing with, of course, climate catastrophe that I was alluding to earlier, and then other issues that all kind of boil together and become this very, very difficult, knotty substance to unwind and take apart. It's all stuck together in this weird way. But I think that you can perhaps crack this walnut, so to speak. These are bad metaphors, and I'm going to work on that for the next presentation, really. Anyway, so we can crack that walnut in a couple of ways, right? So we have to just be honest with ourselves about what we want our priorities to be. We have money to spend in our budget, but we have a lack of political will about where to put it, to put it bluntly. So there is a general sort of idea that Seattle is facing a budgetary shortfall. However, this is sort of a smokescreen. We enacted a capital gains tax last year, and we, according to the Seattle Times, received nearly $250 million more than they had accounted for in that initial tax. This is all supplemental income, and this is only increasing. And this tax, by the way, is only 7% on people who make $250,000 more or a year in stock dividends and trade values. It's not on salaries or anything like this. It hits a very rarefied group of folks here in Seattle, but nevertheless, they are a lot wealthier than was initially suspected, which is why all this money is there. There's a real challenge that we face here in District 2. So Seattle's on an isthmus. It's kind of very narrow space. My district is in the southeast side of the city, right next to the lake, and abuts right next to Rise at Highway 90, or Interstate 90, which cuts across the lake. So one of the things we're facing down here, South Seattle is a very integrated neighborhood with many diverse populations, but we have been underserved by every sort of city service there is, other than education services, which aren't really sufficient for what we have here. So we're facing gentrification, we're facing a populace which is being pushed very, very hard and out of our spaces. We are seeing developers come in who are building not even mid-story buildings, right? But 5-story with 1 floor of economic activity, base floor of stores, 4 floors of housing, which means that they can get under a lot of the Seattle requirements to provide affordable housing in every unit that they build. this is a problem for us. We're facing something like 57,000 unhomed people here in Seattle and King County over the next few years. And we have to do something serious about it. There's a lot of things the city can do and a lot of things we're kind of constricted, but there's a few things which I think would make direct impact. We can buy abandoned lots and renovate them, take over abandoned facilities, and encourage tiny city villages and RV living spaces where city services are co-located. I think there's a lot to do. It's maybe too much to articulate in one go. There's a bunch of stuff going on. So I feel kind of like I'm rambling just slightly, so I'll stop here and we'll go to the next question, I guess.
Great. There are, as I understand it, citywide, there are 45 candidates running for Seattle City Council, some large number like that. Rye is one of 8 candidates running in District 3, and that's where Rye is right now with those others at this live radio event. In the district whose seat Shama Sawant has had until her decision not to run for re-election. Margaret Elizabeth, you have there's only 3 candidates running in your district, so that's maybe a little bit easier. But I'm curious, mostly, I guess, for Lisa and Rye's campaign, what is it like running for a seat that Kshama Sawant has had and has made so prominent nationwide?
Well, the city or the District 3 is, incredibly progressive, and the community is very supportive of keeping this district represented appropriately, really representing the people. And Shama has done that for years, really, represented the people and taking community input and not beholden to any corporate power. And so Rye is really wanting to continue that tradition for the people in District 3 to run a completely independent campaign that's not gonna, be in the back rooms dealing with any local elite politicians or any corporate financed influences and business influences. So, business influences are big.
Are they big shoes? I mean, I imagine they're big shoes to fill. That must add some, add some, weight to the process.
Oh yeah, I think so. And Rye's definitely the most progressive of all the candidates running. I think has a good chance of seeing the endorsements from those, progressive forces. Already they're coming in, obviously Green Party is here for Rye. So yeah, I think that it's slowly that momentum is building, like Rye says, and people are starting to kind of see the spread of the candidates and how they kind of relate to each other. So I think Rye's campaign will be standing out and as that progressive force that can keep the district in a socialist and green.
Great. So and in Seattle, in Washington State, filing week was just a few weeks ago when campaigns are formally launched, and so I guess the question is more looking to the future. What is your campaign? What are some of the milestones that each of you sees in your respective campaigns? You have a primary election in the beginning of August. And so the top 2 candidates in each of those races will move on. It looks like it's going to be a busy several weeks coming up. Can you tell us a little bit about what's on the calendar and also how to help you?
Of course. Yeah, both Rye and Margaret can benefit from any volunteer help that anyone wants to give. We're doing phone banking that can be done remotely. Of course, we're collecting democracy vouchers from residents of Seattle, which is a really big help. And the phone banking is to help us collect those vouchers. So it's really supportive if anyone wants to help with the phone banking. because we can call people in Seattle and they can sign over their vouchers online to a candidate or to multiple candidates. So if we can get people to act just by going online and signing their name on a form, we can get funded through public financing. So these are a wonderful program that we have here, and it makes it, I think it facilitates more volunteers coming in and helping for us to collect that money. Of course, any other donations are very, very welcome. If anyone can give to either of our campaigns, of course, we will put that money to good use. As Rai says, we're being out fundraised right now by the more business supported candidates in the races, in both races. So we can appreciate any grassroots support we can get with volunteer help, with financing, and individuals can donate up to $300 per person and no more with the Democracy Voucher Program. We can't take any more than that from any one person. But getting those vouchers in and getting donations from multiple people is very helpful. So yeah, thank you for everyone for considering volunteering and helping. I'll let Margaret talk too.
Yes.
Thanks,
Margaret.
Lisa. Well, so I guess like things that are coming up, today was the first time I had an opportunity to meet my two competitors for the race, Tammy Morales, the incumbent, and Tanya Wu, who is one of the challengers as well. And like, I think that because it is a top two goes to the general here, I really do think it's a pretty winnable race, to be 100% honest. Having my first, so it wasn't really a debate between us. This was an endorsement interview from the Seattle Times, but we each got a chance to articulate, positions and answer questions. And I think I did a pretty good job with my own positions, articulating what I really believe in and stand for. And just listening to my opponents, I really feel like when we have a chance to get on stage and engage in a debate with them, that I'm going to do really, really well. And I look forward to the opportunity to debate them one-on-one, one-on-two, however it goes. The next thing I have coming up is a meeting with the Port of Seattle, which is tomorrow. I'll be listening to a presentation from them about the importance of the Port of Seattle. It's an interesting public resource here. It's owned by the city of Seattle, which isn't the case for most ports in our country. So it's a pretty interesting, it's a big economic engine, right? It drives tons of our entire progress here. So I'm curious to see what they have to say. I'm of course, happy to support the union effort there and all that kind of stuff like that. My next thing after that, though, is I'm not sure if I'm going to go to the I-5 walking tour with the LID I-5 group or not. I'm already a big supporter of lidding I-5. It's a fantastic idea. I think it's actually one of the better ideas that we could have to address many of the issues that we're facing in the central part of the city. If you're not familiar with our topography, and many people are not, but Seattle is built on 7 hills. So, and a couple of them were leveled. So it's very strange and like an odd terrain, and it's bisected by one highway. It cuts the city right in half, and it's not easy at all to get one from one side to the other. In fact, on the south side of Seattle where I live, there are 3 overpasses that take you across the highway, and they're about 5 miles apart. It's a really inconvenient thing. We have an opportunity here to actually put a lid, like a concrete lid right over the top of a whole big section of I-5, put parks and grasslands on top of it, and install carbon capture technology in it to offset all of the cars that come through Seattle up on their way north to Canada and coming south as well. We have a big challenge in that regard, but I think this is a really good solution for that. The next thing I'm going to be doing after that is an interview with the Washington Biking Club, where we talk about what's really a big problem here in South Seattle, which is unimproved streets with no bike lanes and no safe spaces for pedestrians or bicyclists. And since injuries to pedestrians are on the rise, especially in South Seattle, this is a big deal for my constituents.
Great. Oh, thank you, Margaret Elizabeth. Thank you very much, Lisa. And I think all of us here want to send Rai best wishes for the event that they're at this very moment. We're hoping to hear some good news from that. I think a lot of questions I've seen coming in on the chat. Sherry, are you ready to take over the moderation and do the Q&A for to the conclusion of the program. I want to conclude by 10:30 p.m. So we will have about 15 minutes of Q&A if we have enough questions, and I suspect we probably do. We'll take it until about 10:25, and then I'll have some closing remarks for tonight.
Okay.
Sherry.
First of all, I'd like to say to artists that someone said you sounded confident and contagious. So starting with that opening to the questions. One question for you, artists, was, as the lone state senator in a Republican area, how do you think you can push out your own state agenda? What are the chances that you could get anything listened to?
Thank you. Good question. Resist. Resist. And then talk directly to the constituency. Inform the public. Give the public good information, and that way we can build some power in the community that's centered around the truth instead of someone speaking for us. And so that's how I feel like we can gain some power and get some things done in the state. Being the lone senator is being heavy with connecting the people with the information so that they can make informed decisions.
And support the issues that you're pushing forward.
That's right.
Okay. You had mentioned about utilities, and I'm wondering if you've researched, there's the city in Georgia that I'm visiting often is only 3,000 people, but they have an electric cooperative. Lansing, Michigan has the City Power and Light that is city owned. Have you or anyone done any research into all of these alternatives to corporate ownership of utilities?
We have a few cooperatives. What's that? I'm sorry, what was that?
I want that. We all want that.
Yeah, we've had conversations about that, and the thing is here in here especially, it's how they produce the electricity. We have cooperatives here that usually partner with bigger companies, but the whole extractive economies and everything, we've seen enough of that here in South Mississippi to where we just want to end the petrochemical build out altogether, and that is my stance. No budging, standing firm, so we have all kinds of ways here. We're allowing people to create. To set up in the Gulf now with windmills. There's all kinds of creative ways to create energy in the community now. And this is going to take a complete overhaul. It's going to be uncomfortable, probably, but we just have to stop the petrochemical build out altogether.
Well, especially in the Gulf, that's got to be a challenge. For your information, Detroit has 3,000 community gardens, not plots in people's backyards. You might want to look into that. Now, Rye, and for Lisa, on behalf of Rye, and for Margaret, there are questions for you. Hariaksha, if I got that? All right, I've spoken to you before. You said that there's a city called Denton in Texas that claims to be a carbon-free city, and you said that's bogus. So you want to know what a carbon-free city in Seattle would look like. I think that's what you're asking.
Sure. Yeah. So Rye wants to support the program Electrify Seattle, which is being put forward by a lot of different activists, community activist groups, including 350 Seattle and Extinction Rebellion. To rehaul or basically overhaul all the large buildings in Seattle to bring them, into clean energy transition through good union jobs and green jobs. So we want to, fund all of that transition with the Green New Deal program. So that's, really that's the big part of the carbon neutral is to really update all of the existing large buildings. That's public and some private buildings. And of course, all the new infrastructure being built is, up to standard. So there's no net carbon being emitted. So carbon neutral by 2030 just means really accelerating the timeline on that, which Seattle is starting to move forward on, and certainly wants to be, in the forefront of the movement to electrify in a sustainable way. And just, it's about 20 years faster. We need to do it 20 years faster than what the current timeline is. So instead of 2050, we need to bring that up to speed by 2030. So that's
Margaret, do you have something to add on that
Yeah.
question?
Well, I think it definitely takes a lot of different forms, but one of the things that brings us there is increasing walkability in our city, usable bike paths, and encouraging public transport use. So investment in our public infrastructure takes us pretty close to here as well. It's not a very convenient thing to use public transport in Seattle, and there's a lot of controversy about why, and that's some of the stuff that hits my district really hard. We have a huge working class population here, which many, I would say even most, rely on public transport to get to and from in the city. But it's a hard challenge. I don't really know what a carbon neutral Seattle would look like. I've never seen such a thing in real life. I've heard people talk about it. I would like to see it. I think it looks like all the buildings being renovated and us being really aggressive in carbon taxing for vehicles that travel through our throughways and thoroughfares. But that's, what can I say? It's not really clear. And I think that that's going to be one of the big challenges for everybody, not just Seattle, but every city moving forward for the next 25 years.
There was a question about volcanic activation. I don't understand what that even is. We don't have volcanoes in Michigan. Can either of you talk to me about that?
Well, so volcanoes are these great big things where lava comes out of. And we have them here in Seattle or around us. And you can see a beautiful one right down the mountain, Mount Rainier. We have disaster and emergency plans in place, but there's really nothing specific that I know of that's for volcanoes.
Lisa?
Oh, could you repeat the question?
I'm not sure if it was a question or just something about volcanic activation. It didn't sound like a question or an answer. What type of plan is there in Seattle for volcanic activation? I guess maybe when a volcano blows its top, and Margaret talked a little bit about self-defense plans.
Right. Yeah. No, Seattle definitely. Well, I don't know of what Seattle has in place right now. We're in the shadow of Mount Rainier, but we're not that close to Mount Rainier. Although the Green River could potentially have a big lahar if there was an eruption. But certainly there's a lot of communities that are closer, and Tacoma being the one that would be right in the flow of that. And so, yeah, mitigation against potential volcanic eruption is definitely important, but it's not something that our campaign has focused on, as far as I'm aware. But volcanic activation of the electorate is what we're about.
Okay, I hope that part of it satisfies Emily. The next two questions were directed to Margaret. One of them is about how open the press is to hearing from the Green Party, and apparently the equal media was bounced out of the United States some time ago. I heard somebody say there's no more equal time. So is the media open to listening to the Green Party people? And that's actually a question probably for both of you.
Well, that's a really good question. So my experience directly with the media personnel so far has been fine. If I had to be like sort of Nostradamus about this sort of thing, my guess is that there hasn't been a prominent Green Party politician in Seattle in quite a while, so the local press just hasn't paid us any mind whatsoever. We haven't run a unified race. We have, in this particular election cycle, the Green Party's running 3 candidates in Seattle. So like we're really trying to make waves here and really shift the focus and the discussion. And I don't think that's happened previously. So I think that there's no particular animus. I will say this, there, especially during presidential election years, there is a fair degree of animus which can be directed towards the Green Party because of the quote spoiler effect and that sort of thing, and which we run into. Like you all probably do too if you advocate for Green Party stuff anywhere else. So we hit that too, but outside of that, the media seems pretty open to us in general as people, but I think it's just because they haven't really interacted with us much as a party.
Lisa, any comments?
I'd say that's accurate. Yeah,
All
on a
right.
local level, we get good representation. But when those presidential years come around, then our local progressive media sort of turns on the Green Party. That definitely has happened.
Well, ranked choice voting may or may not help that. And the final question I see is something about sexual assault investigation by the Seattle Police Department. They have a rug they sweep it under?
Yeah, so that's kind of an awful thing. There was a report that came out 2 months ago or so. Insider Seattle Police Department revealed that in the sexual assault division, there's only 2 detectives who are currently assigned there, and they're both assigned to child sexual assaults, and no detectives are assigned to adult sexual assaults at all. They go completely uninvestigated, and they have been for years now. The current mayor in Seattle, Mayor Harrell, has decided that one of the prudent uses of our police force and time will be to prosecute casual drug use on our streets and to sweep the unhomed off of them. This is a disastrous waste of resources, and it obviously is going to be targeting the working class and the poor on the streets more than anyone else. Who else is it going to hit? It always does. We always know this. There's no reason to pretend it is anything other than a crass political move. I understand why you might feel the pressure from the business community to take these kind of actions, but I think you have to have a moral and ethical standard that allows you to ignore that stuff and actually allocate police to real crimes. These are real crimes. People are sexually assaulted, and it's overwhelmingly women and women of color, and they're not investigated at all. And the police department stated that they would not investigate any of the crimes until somebody had been arrested. But I wonder, how do you arrest somebody for a crime if there's no investigation of it? It doesn't make any sense. So I
You want
think
them to actually protect and serve?
indeed. And I think this is a disastrous misprioritization of our police resources. We should have detectives on these cases detecting these things and solving these crimes. People who deserve to be brought to the full justice of the law should be brought there. But one of the things that happens when you know these cases aren't being investigated is it's preventative. People won't go and report crimes to the police department. They know it's not going to be acted on. And if someone finds out that you reported that you've been assaulted by them, especially if they're related to you, which most sexual assaults happen from people we know, then it gets worse for you. It doesn't get better. This is a big problem we have to face. And I think it gets pushed under the rug because it's easy in some sense to push women's issues out of the way, out of the public eye. And we can focus on crime and being tough and visible symptoms of an underlying rot at the core of our society. And I think obviously the Green Party addresses that. It's a tonic for the soul and a balm for our environment, but also a way for us to organize politically and get involved in a way which is meaningful and significant in our own lives, which upholds our own values and morals.
When Detroit area finally got some of these rape kits tested, they found one person had his genes were found in at least 8 cases. So you think if one person had been arrested, there might have been at least 7 fewer rapes. That is incredibly sad. Lisa, anything to add to this one? It's the last question I see. Well, let me check, but answer that one and I'll look for the others.
I don't know if I have anything to add. Margaret answered that one thoroughly.
All right.
We're just about at time anyway, Sherry.
Well, okay. Okay,
Last
someone
call for
mentioned
questions.
the equal time rule was killed in 1996 with the Telecommunications Act. That must be what I'm talking about. And, oh, not exactly. This sounds like Holly saying that. Cops don't work for us. There is a wonderful letter by a Savannah, Georgia police officer who said, I do not have perpetrators and victims. I have neighbors. I live in Savannah. These are my neighbors. And military and law enforcement are doing it wrong in this country. And he's got backgrounds in both. It's a wonderful letter. If anybody wants it, let me know. I've been passing it around. All right, so true, sorry. Well, you're doing some inspiring things in Seattle, and in some ways it's sad to hear that some of these same things are happening all over the place. A lot of what Gloria said is stuff that we've been dealing with in Detroit and Michigan, both. And I want the Green Party to be the education party in Michigan. Thank you very
Great.
much. I've made notes for
you.
myself from all of you.
Thank you, Sherry, and thank you, everyone. This will formally conclude tonight's Green Wave webinar. The Coordinated Campaign Committee produces monthly webinars on various topics to support our candidates. The next month's plan is to have a webinar on how activists can expand their reach and get positive press. Details to follow. Please again consider supporting this committee, becoming a monthly sustainer to the Green Party of the United States, and making financial contributions direct to candidates that you support. We do not take corporate or lobbyist funds, so support from individuals who share our values and want to see us get stronger is essential. Thank you very much, everybody, and we'll see you at next month's webinar. Goodbye.